Hello and welcome back to Spirit Mom. Today at Spirit School, we're going to discuss bad habits and what we can do about them. Obviously, we don't want to have them, but sometimes we might wonder, well, why? What's the harm? I just want to enjoy this life. I've talked before about the 7 deadly sins, about drinking, overeating, TV, and the reason why all these things are bad is because they slow down, block, stop our ascension, or just simply being connected with our higher self. These things can overstimulate our systems or just block off chakras because of what they're doing, causing imbalances. And all these things are not good for us. So we want to first start by identifying our bad habits. Another thing we've talked about a lot is the ego. And the ego is really going to play a part here because it's going to block off that this is a bad habit. There'll be a part of you, like that higher self trying to get through, that's telling you it's a bad habit. But your ego is going to try to make you ignore it. It's going to come up with excuses. Oh, but I had a really hard day. Oh, but these aren't that bad. They say they're low calorie. Or this show is, what I do as Survivor, this show is showing me a microcosm of the universe. Or same thing with Big Brother. This is expanding my awareness of people. No, it's not. They cherry pick the same blasé people that are not real people, that are not ascending people. They're picking people that are going to stick to the script. So that's a bad habit. The news is an extremely bad habit. Stay away from that. But we're not here to list bad habits. Obviously, we know things like drugs and alcohol are bad habits. Obviously, we know things like overeating are bad habit. Obviously, we know things like most food is bad. And it depends because some people can handle certain things better than others. Like everything is not a sin for every person, if that makes sense. Like other people like have different sensibilities, right? So we're talking specifically about your bad habits. After we identify it's a bad habit and we stop the ego from trying to convince us it's not, that's when we move into our steps to fix it. And we've talked before about self-hypnosis, how that can help change your behavior on a subconscious level, because that will clear out all that subconscious programming that's making you do the bad habit to begin with. Because bad habits are blocking us from our higher self. But, and this is kind of a contradictory point, we do want to get rid of bad habits, but we also don't want to be over judgmental on ourselves, because you know what also stops us from connecting with our higher selves and ascending to higher levels is judgment, judging others and judging ourselves. We want to be pure-hearted with everybody, including ourselves. So let's say we did eat that bag of chips and watch the bad show. We now can't just go, oh, you POS, how could you eat these chips? Oh, you're disgusting. Oh, I'm such a loser. I'll never get better. And then it just causes a spiral. So then tomorrow you might eat 2 bags of chips and drink pop with it. Or if you're a drinker, you'll drink more and you'll just want to down the sorrow. And then it starts that downward spirals. They always end up being perpetuated by our own judgments and our own guilt, because guilt and shame are the 2 deadliest of things, and they are why sins end up being so bad, is guilt and shame. But it's a balancing act, because you also don't want to be doing those things all free willy, going, I'm perfect, this is great, I can do whatever I want, no judgment for me. It's literally a balancing act here. You need to acknowledge that it needs to change, but then not spiral in judgment if you do it anyways. You take a mature approach and kind of talk to yourself, be like, okay, I understand we did that. It's okay. So like acknowledge and tell yourself that was wrong, but it's okay. Like be the mature wise parent we all wish we had had, right? You need to just be there for yourself during the process. And you'll need to try different tips and tricks to get over certain bad habits. Like there's different things that make your brain better every single day. Like 2 things I've specifically found that make my brain better, besides meditation and spiritual practices like yoga, I mean physical things. So one is stop gluten, and the other is start probiotics. Probiotics, like just taking one of those pills and getting like 50 billion, 30 billion, depends on the pill, of those good microbiome builders. Like we want, like in our guts, there's bad microbes and good microbes, and sugar and all the bad stuff feeds the bad ones. That makes our brains bad. It's just this cycle that happens with bad food in the gut, and you end up causing leaking gut syndrome, which makes your brain worse, which makes your habits worse. But one big step of starting to make all that better is microbiotics, specifically like the little pills you could take, and things like kefir, and like kefir's fermented milk, but I do ferment, because I don't do dairy, I do fermented coconut, like it's just fermented coconut, and it's sold in the organic section. And so kefir's great, but sauerkraut's the best thing you could have. Sauerkraut is one of the best things we can eat to help our gut. Anything fermented is going to help the gut and fill it up with good microbes, because the good ones eat fiber, so then you also want to eat fiber to feed them, and they build up, and they help our brains. They give our brains good fuel, good thoughts. There's a lot of people that say like thoughts can come from the guts, and that's a whole world of itself with balancing your gut, especially in this world where food is just terrible. Because the thing I struggle with is because I'm always trying to be like a raw vegan, like fruit veggies, but even fruits and veggies are covered in pesticides. They need to be bioorganic. There's all that, is it really organic? And like it's a whole thing that's exhausting in this world. I just want good food, and I want to be able to afford it too. That'd be nice. So it's not easy to stay away from bad food. That's probably the biggest thing to struggle with, especially, obviously drugs and alcohol are terrible, but there is no debate that drugs and alcohol are terrible, and you can just stop drugs and alcohol and survive. Food actually ends up being a more complicated bad habit situation to fix, because we need food to live, and it's usually toxic. So that is a big balancing act, one that I still struggle with. I've overcome a lot of things, and I'm still pretty good with my food considering, but it's like, unless you're, I see all these homesteaders that are being big things on YouTube, and that's the dream, right? Like if I was homesteading, growing my own fruits, I do grow my own fruits and vegetables to a point, but farming is not easy, and you do not grow enough crops to sustain yourself unless you had like acres and acres and were a full farm. But then you need to actually have someone farming all that, and that's just a whole nother subject on its own. So food is complicated, but drugs and alcohol, you can stop that. Bad TV, you can stop that. People got triggered when I said like, I just want to relax, man. Let me watch my bad TV. But I don't care. Don't watch the bad TV. I've been there. I was a TV-aholic, and it's got to go. It's not good for you. It rots your brain, and that's what they want. They're not trying to entertain you for your own good and benefit. They're trying to entertain you, yes, to keep you asleep. Because the more people that wake up, the more people will realize that that 1%, that 1 billion, the only thing they have over you is mind power. They know these secrets, and once you know that you're a lot, you will be a lot. So you right now, no matter what your situation, you can all of a sudden decide, I'm a lot, and boom, your life would change. Right? For most of us, it's like an incremental spurts as we slowly make our life better, and we see it and we think it and we see it and we think it and we see it and we think it, and then we climb that ladder internally and externally, right? But there's people that just all of a sudden have these epiphany moments, and bam, their life's amazing the next day. That's the dream, right? And these people know it and they don't want us waking up to it. And they want us to keep us down with food and all these things. So yes, we have bad habits is my point here. But we don't need to feel shame. We don't need to blame ourselves because it's not our fault. We didn't go seeking this stuff usually, but it was thrown right at us. But we also need to take responsibility that even though somebody else might be shooting this stuff down at us, it's still our responsibility to acknowledge that we need to change it and work towards that in whatever way clicks with us. And each different habit might have a different solution to it. I always recommend hypnosis because it helped me get over a lot, like even self-sabotage can be a bad habit. I had a big problem with that where I would be doing good. And like when I used to weigh myself and I'd see the scale get better and then I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna have a bunch of bag of chips and stuff. Or it's even with when I'm doing really good at cleaning or something, like I've kept the house clean for a bunch of days, but then I realize it's the flow state. Once you realize, even when I play the piano and I realize, oh, I'm doing amazing right now. And then I was like, oh, now I ruined it. You know, it's like this subconscious self-sabotaging thing, which I think a lot of people have too. Which that's also something that we can get over and improve. There's so much we can do to improve ourselves, but we need to acknowledge that we need to improve it and don't let the ego tell us, oh, it's fine. Oh, it's blah, 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 inserting excuse, because it will have a million. It's the king of excuses. And whatever it needs to say to make you the best or make you the worst. We've talked about that before. It wants to be the best or the worst. Either way, it wants to be the king of the story, whichever side of the story that's going to be. Okay? So, bad habits, let's find them and let's get rid of them, but without guilt, without shame, but with taking responsibility over thine own self, because we can do it. It is hard, but extremely doable. And it's not anything that's physically hard. It's like literally mental warfare that you're gonna have with yourself, but you can win. I know you can do it. Goodbye for now, Spirit Mom.